That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Rockwell timepiece says it's time to come on in and stay a while. You're about to be coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Rockwell is a proud partner of the Coach Scott Field Show. So go to rockwelltime.com, use the code COACH20 and receive a 20% off of any order there on that website. Thrilled to be a brand ambassador for them. Like and follow our Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive these wonderful interviews and content. Watch the Coach Scott Field Show on DBTV Monday through Friday, and we're about to change to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday through Friday. That has a chance to be seen in over 300 million households around the world. CSTV on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and then also the Rewind Sports 60 out of Chicago. So super excited to have my buddy Kermit. And Kermit and I say, if you're listening to us in podcast form, turn that knob up. We're about to put that flavor in your ear. We tried this interview last week and we had some technical difficulties, so I'm thrilled to see my man Kermit Washington on the other side with me. Kermit, welcome to the show, buddy.
For having me. I appreciate it. No problem.
You got it. Well, for those who don't know, Kermit Washington, 1973, he was the 5th overall pick by the LA Lakers. He spent time with the Lakers, the Celtics, the San Diego Clippers, and then also the Portland Trailblazers. He was a 2-time NCAA rebounding leader, All-American in 1973, 2-time NBA All-Defensive Team, and in 1980 he was selected as an NBA All-Star. Kermit, with accolades like that, what an honor it is to have you on the show and share your insights with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It'll be interesting. The show will be interesting.
It is. It's going to be fun. So let's talk about it. We got into it last week before the technical difficulties, but where did the game of basketball and your love and passion for basketball start?
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you, it was never a passion. I love football more and baseball more than anything else. And that's what I played more than anything. As I've told the story many times, after my senior year for football at Calvin Coolidge High School, I had nothing to look forward to, really. And so my best friend, Glenn Price, had a car, and he told me if I go out for the basketball team, well, he'll give me a ride to school and a ride home. So it sounded good to me. So and I was only 6'4", not that good in basketball, but because I was 6'4", and back then, 50-some years ago, being 6'4" was very tall for a basketball player. It was good. It was a good height. So I joined the team. I didn't expect to play, but I just wanted to sit on the bench and get a ride to school and a ride home. That's it. And watch my friend play right on the bench as opposed to being up in the stands. And his name was Glenn Price. He was 6'9", averaged about 30 points a game. He went on to St. Bonaventure and had a very good career. So sitting on the bench, they got me in a couple of games because some of the ball players on the team didn't do well academically and they got put off the team. And so that got me put in some of the games. And some of the games I didn't play too badly. And some of the games I played horrendous. And some of the games I never even got in high school. They never put me in. So we're not looking at one of these wonderful stories beginning. It was not very good. And that's what really prompted me to become better and to practice. Because I was a halfway decent football player. I was good in other sports and at Calvin Coolidge High School. And I didn't like the idea of not being good at something that I wanted to be good in. Because on the playgrounds and stuff, you really want to be chosen and to perform at a certain level. So the story goes, I think I averaged about 5 points, maybe 2 rebounds a game my senior year. I read a story about Spence Haywood. He had a weight vest, about a 20-pound weight vest, and he would run with it. And then Adrian Dantley and a guy named James Brown, who does football now on Sundays, he was the best player, one of the best players in Washington, D.C., and he would jump rope. So my thinking is, I'm going to put those two things together, and jump rope with a weight vest and try to get better as an athlete. And I started off jumping rope maybe 100 times a night. I doubled it to 200, to 400, 800, 1,600, 1,000 times every night with a 20-pound weight vest. And I improved so much, so quickly, that I couldn't even believe it, because I was going down to the playground and I was playing with guys that were pretty good players. We had 10 guys from that playground that made it in the NBA or the ABA. But at first, my freshman year, I was getting better, and I knew I was going to be better because I just believed that if I just outworked everybody, I could be successful. But before that, no. I never even imagined being good in basketball.
Wow. Wow. And I think about that hard work, that dedication, the discipline to put on that weight vest and jump 1,000 times every day, the strength and the endurance that you were building to be able to time the rebound and go up and grab all those rebounds to lead the NCAA in rebounding.
Well, you know what? It was 10,000 times a night I jumped with a 20.
Man,
Take me an hour and 20 minutes without stopping. I
wow.
took me time to build up that. But the problem is, I just learned that I just wanted to be good. And if you're willing to pay the price, and I try to tell these young kids nowadays, I said, you need to do this, do that. Well, some of them just don't want to work that hard now. But my sophomore year, my freshman year, from not averaging 5 points and maybe 2 or 3 rebounds my senior year in high school, because of the jumping rope, I averaged about 19 points and 23 rebounds as a freshman. And back in the days, you couldn't play varsity ball. You had to play freshman ball. And so I was named top 10 freshman in the country from being a bench warmer in high school. And so that's why I tell young kids, you always can have hope if you really believe and you're really willing to pay the price. And so but see, here's the thing. Because I didn't play ball, I didn't realize that 20 rebounds was a lot of rebounds. I didn't know. I hadn't the slightest idea. I just knew when the ball went up and somebody missed it, go get it. That's all I knew. Go get it. And I was in really, really good shape. And I could jump really well. But now these guys nowadays jump a little bit better than we did back.
Wow.
And then my coach, Tom Young, and Tom Davis. Now, Tom Davis went on to Iowa, Stanford, and Lafayette, and he did a great job. He went to the Final 8, I think. But Tom Young went to the Final 4, went to Rutgers, and went to the Final 4. They left after I left. But they told me my sophomore year, they said, Kermit, if you can average 10 points and 10 rebounds a game, we'll be very, very happy. I said, well, coach, that doesn't seem hard. I think I can do that. Well, I averaged about 18 points and 21 rebounds a game as a sophomore. And I didn't realize, but I just liked working out. And I didn't know the pressure I had on me. I didn't understand it. I just knew the ball went up, go get it, because I was in good shape. And so my sophomore year, my second game, see, the first game we played against, I don't know, maybe somebody like Ryder, and I had about 18 points and 25 rebounds. And paper, they said, inauspicious start for Kermit Washington. Well, I didn't know what that word meant. So looking, I said, well, is that good or bad? I don't know what auspicious means. So that was funny. But then the next game, I think we played St. John's. And St. John's had probably 3 guys that were #1 draft picks. It was Mel Davis, Mel Schaefer, and another guy that became really good. They were a very good team. And we played them, and I had like 25 points and 24 rebounds. And that's when I knew that I was going to be a good player. I mean, my sophomore year, because I was just in better shape, and I just never got tired. And I was smart enough not to get in foul trouble, too. You have to understand, my thinking was, if I'm in this good a shape, I got to stay on the court because I can outrun them, I can outjump them. But if I get in foul trouble, I have to sit down on the bench. So I fouled out of 1 game in college. That was against LaSalle my senior year. But basketball, I just loved working out. I just loved, and another funny thing is, when I went to college, I grew 4 more inches to 6. But the sad part, I only weighed 160 pounds. It was pathetic.
Oh, this is good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Kermit Washington on here. We're going one-on-one with the coach. That segment's brought to you by Sleep Number. They're the official sleep partner of the NFL, and they're the sleep partner of the Coach Scott Field Show. Give my buddy Todd a call at 801-845-9058. He can help you save thousands of dollars on a Sleep Number weightless sleeping device where they can control the temperature of the bed and everything. If you're working out as hard as Kermit was working out, if he had more restful sleep, he'd be grabbing 40 rebounds a game. So give Todd a call there. He can help anybody across the nation. So Kermit, great stories right there. With how hard you were working and the rebounds that you were grabbing, I mean, that led you to be the 5th overall pick by the LA Lakers. What did it mean to you coming from Washington, D.C.? You're growing to be 6'8", 6'9". You get drafted by the LA Lakers. Who were some of the members of that Laker team who I know, but I want you to share with the viewers who some of those players on that Laker team were that you got drafted by?
Well, it was Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, Happy Hairston, Connie Hawkins. Who else? Oh, Pat Riley. Let me see, Zelmo Beatty. Oh, let me see who else was on that team. Stu Lance.
Wow.
Laker games now, color guy for the Lakers. Let me think who else was on there. Mel Counts. You know what? They had just went to the championship the year before, but Wilt Chamberlain retired.
Yeah.
He retired that year, my rookie year, excuse me. He just said that was enough. That was enough. So the team that went to the championship all of a sudden now was a team that was struggling, trying to replace, the great Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow. Well, when you got to that franchise, what was it like being around a Gail Goodrich and a mastermind, master motivator, Pat Riley? Did you see him? Did you see the greatness in him and the coach and front office guy that he is now?
No, Pat Riley was my teammate, and he didn't get into games too much.
Yeah, okay.
But he was a very hard worker in practice. And when somebody got hurt, I think Gail Goodrich got hurt, he got an opportunity to play some, and he did well, about 12, 13 points a game. But, did you know that he was nobody would ever believe that he became as great a coach as he is, as a motivator, because he had never coached any level before in his life. Not junior high school, not high school, not nowhere. He went from the radio announcing with Chick Hearn down to coaching with Jerry West, that he didn't want to coach anymore because Jerry West was a perfectionist and he could not understand why other people were not as good as he was. That's the truth. But he didn't understand how great he was. We're not going to be as great as Jerry West. He's one of the top, in my opinion, top 10 of all time.
Wow.
You look at his stats, his playoff stats, 40 points a game, and what he did, I always say, here's my thinking about point guards. The best 4-point guards in history. I think Magic Johnson is number one. The other great point guard, I've got to put Jerry West in there and Oscar Robertson.
Ooh, the big O.
Now, the third one the fourth one is a toss-up. It's so many other great point guards. You got John Stockton. You got Nate Archibald. You just go down. You have Jason Kidd. It just goes on and on and on. Isaiah Thomas. But, those three, in my mind, stand out by themselves. Maybe other people can think of other guys that they think that is good. But the longevity of the guys I'm talking about, it was just monstrous.
Yeah, and think how many triple doubles a Big O would have had they kept those stats back in the 60s and when he was making his ascend in the game, because just a tremendous athlete, big body, was able to do so many things, again, kind of before his time.
Well, you have to realize back when he played, the game was slower. Yeah. And the only team that really ran in the NBA was the Boston Celtics. But because Oscar was about 225 and 6'5", he just dominated the small guards in the NBA. And if you look at his stats for his career, is almost a triple double.
Right.
I mean, one season a triple double, but it's monstrous stats. I mean, and I unfortunately, because these young people that watch games, they've never even heard of him. They've never looked at his stats. You get a player nowadays, he would have been probably a three guy, play three position, two, maybe two, but he was big enough and strong enough to play the three. And he was very, very good with the ball, great assist man, great leader. That's the difference. Him and Jerry West, I try to tell people, very serious. It's no playing around, joking around, and hugging each other before games. No, that's not them. They came to play. They came to win. It's just like Magic. Magic was a very serious player. Even though he smiled and laughed, he was another killer. He wanted to beat you and wanted to destroy you. And all these guys I knew, you could tell who was going to be successful and who was not going to be successful because of their mindset.
Yeah. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I think mindset is the operative word. And, you're talking about the logo, Jerry West, probably one of the best front office guys in the league has ever seen. Did you see that mindset in him in those playing days where he was just so cerebral about the game, and maybe he had just so much foresight on how to put a team together, how to put the right pieces together, how to build around each other? Did you see that just being around him?
Well, you when I said he was serious, do you know how guys go and shoot around before the games? Well, he told you, you shot when it's time for you to shot. You sat down there and stretched until it was your time to shoot. And then you didn't shoot three-pointers if you're a big guy. You got underneath and worked on your drills. Yeah. No, he wasn't a play around guy. No, he was a serious leader. He was a captain of the team. And he told you what to do. And sometimes during the timeout, unfortunately, people will look toward him more than the coach for instructions during the timeout. Very good leader. Very good leader. His first he was my teammate, then he became my coach.
Yep.
Well, he was my coach. We had the best record in the NBA. That's all you need to know.
Wow. And you hear so many stories about Jerry West. Of course, he's the logo, and the books that are written about him. But how losing just really ate up at him, and he carried those losses with him, and he was so fixated and focused on winning that nothing else mattered. Did you see that side of him as well?
Well, people like Jerry, the insecurities that he had in his life is what pushed him to be successful. Wow. He didn't have a good life growing up. And this was his identity, being good, being great, and succeeding. So he took losses hard, very, very hard. But he was willing to pay the price to try to win at any cost.
Yeah, great stuff. You mentioned Wilt Chamberlain had stepped away and retired. Were you ever able to sit around with Wilt, just like in the off season, and try to pick his brain or be around him? And if you did, what kind of things were you able to pick up from him?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't use the word pick his brain, because he would lecture you on how good he was in everything. The greatest volleyball player, the greatest track guy. He told me he could beat Muhammad Ali. And all these stories. And I said, "Well, and he used to talk about other things we don't need to talk about. I believe in the first place at all. I just said, do the math. Wilt, you can't do that. Wilt would mumble. Sometimes, okay, and it was funny. He would say, listen here, young man. And then he would say how good he was. I said, Ali would have knocked you out in the first minute. Now, in track, I'm not going to argue. I looked at your stats. You were very good in track. Basketball, the best. And it's sad that people don't remember him. They don't remember. But, points in a game. But see, that's not the biggest feat I think he ever did. When he averaged 50 points a game and 25 rebounds for a season, that'll never be matched. Now, 100 points a game, I think, can be matched. because of three-pointer now, three-point shot now. But 50 points, 25 rebounds a game, I don't think anybody will ever match that, because that's just unbelievable statistics. Unbelievable.
It is. It is. And people, if this younger generation and the young kids now, they don't have, they need to go see it on YouTube because they never saw him play. It's a couple of generations past, so it's, generation that they don't know and understand, but what a phenomenal athlete.
Oh, if you look at his track records in Philadelphia, he was a great volleyball player. I listen to everything he says except his boxing and other things that we won't talk about. I said, I'll leave you out and embarrass you. And he said, oh, no, I could have got him. I said, no, you couldn't. No, you couldn't.
I love it.
Young man, you need to listen to me. I said, I could be on the floor waiting for the ambulance to come get you.
You mentioned somewhere, I was doing some research, and you talked about Pete Newell, your relationship with Coach Pete Newell, because I coached in Hawaii for a couple of years before I coached professionally, and he always ran his big man camp out there. What did Pete Newell and that relationship mean to you, and how did he help you become a better big man and a better rebounder?
Well, you have to realize Pete Newell is the one that drafted me. He was a general manager for the Lakers. And I got drafted very high, but because the team was good, they told me initially, you're not going to play a lot. Well, I believed I was going to play a lot, but then again, I sat on that bench for 2.5 years. And I went to Pete and I said, Pete, the coaches that we have, Bill Sharman and John Barnhill, wonderful guys, but they were point guards. You only had 2 coaches back then. It was not all these coaches. You had 1 trainer, and that is it. There's nothing else. And I said, I asked them to help me, but they really didn't know how to help me because they were guards. But I knew that Coach Newell had been a great college coach. And so I said, Pete, can you work with me to help me get off this bench? And he says, I can't because it'll be embarrassing or embarrassing to the coaches. I said, well, I need you to help me. So I will go sit up in his office after practice and just wait for him to come out so I could beg him more to come work with me. Well, the 3rd year, he retired. And he says, okay, now I can work with you. So we will go to Loyola Marymount, just me and him for the first year. So you hear all these other stories, but it was just me and Pete. Nobody. And people say, well, it started here. No, it started with me and Pete at Loyola Marymount. And then we got other players as years went on, like Chris Ford. No, let me see. We had Tom Abernathy. We had other people. Then it got to be huge. I mean, that's the best camp in the history, I think, of basketball. And very few coaches could pull that off. The only coach nowadays that could pull that off is Coach K. It's the only one because the jealousy, the envy of other coaches, they wouldn't let their best players go. But now, because the Coach K has retired, they might let him, start a camp like that. But we had, oh my goodness, probably 25 guys that were not only stars, but they were all stars. You had Kareem, you had Walton, you had Olajuwon, you had Sean Kemp, you had Scottie Pippen, you had the X-Man, you had Jerome Kersey, you had Dale Ellis. You just go down the list. You must have been over 150 players that came through over the years. And it started with just me. But because I became successful, then coaches said, for me sitting on the bench, then all of a sudden I'm starting and playing very well because of his teaching. And then the camp just got bigger and bigger. It went from Loyola Marymount to Inglewood High School to Westchester High School to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And Hawaii, that's where Shaq came. And when Shaq came, everybody wanted to come because Shaq was just the most dominant player I had ever seen.
Wow.
And he had great players that would come, and they would come to compete with Shaq, but there was no competing with Shaq.
Yeah.
He was athletic, strong, and you'd have the gym would be completely filled people from Hawaii wanted to see him practice. So the gym was open for, spectators.
Great stories. I think of those stories and think of your hard work. You're always thirsting for knowledge and picking people's brains to try to become better and be good at your craft. 1980, you are selected as an NBA All-Star. When you walked into that locker room in 1980 and looked at the members of that All-Star team, were you a little bit in awe, or did you feel like, hey, I belong here?
No, I didn't belong. I knew I didn't belong there, but they were my friends. Adrian Dantley, Marques Johnson, Kareem. I knew all of these guys before. Who else was on the team? But I knew them. But here's the thing. I never had to see. That's the problem. Most of these college.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but some of those names, I mean, it was Otis Birdsong. You had Jack Sikma, Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Dennis Johnson, Otis Birdsong were some other members on that All-Star team. And it's just, wow. I mean, what a list of talent.
Well, you know what? As I said, I didn't think I was an all-star. That year, now here's the thing about the Blazers. When I joined the Blazers and I was sent from the Clippers to Portland for compensation for Walton, I was going up there. They had Maurice Lucas and Michael Thompson, which is Klay Thompson's dad.
Yep.
What happened? Michael Thompson broke his knee, broke his leg playing something, and Maurice Lucas was hurt. Now, all of a sudden, I become a starter. I was a starter with the Clippers and a starter with the other teams, but I didn't expect to really start. But because they were hurt, I got a chance to play a lot. And at All-Star break, I think I was averaging about 15 points and 12 or 13 rebounds. And so I got chosen. Now, I didn't believe in myself as being an All-Star. I thought I was playing well, but to be honored, and I was very happy, but I knew in my heart I never had that mentality of being an all-star, because I always played with people that were so much better than me, and they were the ones that told me what to do all the time. So when I went to Boston, you had Havlicek, Dave Cowens, Dave Bing. You had a plethora of superstars, Hall of Famers. And so when the Lakers, I had Jerry West and Gail Goodrich, all these, Connie Hawkins, all these other guys there. So everywhere I went, I was, subservient to what they wanted. I did exactly what they told me to do. That's it.
But see, that to me, that's being a star in your role, and you were a phenomenal role player that helped glue the team, because you'd be the guy to grab the rebound to start the breaks, and you weren't afraid of contact. You would set the hard screens for your guards. I mean, that's the epitome of a role player right there. That's what teams need now.
Well, yes, you need a lot of Indians, not a lot of Chiefs. and that's why, see, the word is team, is not a group of individuals, because the greatest team, I'm just going to say, I thought the greatest team ever assembled was that Philadelphia team with Dr. J, George McGinnis. You had Daryl Dawkins, Doug Collins, Steve Mix. It just kept going on and on. They had so much talent, and they only won one, where they won, 3 or 4 easy. But then again, Boston was so talented at the same time. They had 4 guys that were Hall of Famers: Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Then they had Dennis Johnson. So they were a very good team. So back then, you had a lot of teams that were good, that were competitive, that you didn't know who was going to win. But between Philadelphia and Boston, and it's been became good. So as time went on, Detroit, but the showtime back then was Dr. J. I think Dr. J, in my opinion, saved the NBA, because the NBA was struggling, and when Dr. J came, everything changed. Everybody couldn't wait to see Dr. J play. The Philadelphia 76ers, it was like a show. Oh my, everybody couldn't wait just to watch them warm up, play the game. They would come see them warm up, dunks. It's like a Globetrotter team or something.
Yeah, and of course, and he played at the University of Massachusetts, dominated the ABA, the ABA. He comes over. So, do you really believe that Dr. J was more of who saved the NBA, or like Magic and Bird, who took the game to where now games were nationally televised after Bird and Magic were having their rivalries?
Well, here's the thing. I think they all did a great job for the NBA, but for a certain amount of years, Dr. J saved the NBA. Then Bird and Magic came, then they helped. Then Michael came. It was just progression of who was going to take the mantle and just keep running with it. But Dr. J, to me, and he was a very unselfish player. See, that's the difference. These other guys, they wanted the ball and they knew they were going to get the ball. Where Dr. J had 4 or 5 other guys on the team that wanted the ball too. World B. Free, Doug Collins, McGinnis. You had guys that thought they were the stars. Whereas in other teams, they knew that Larry Bird was the number one player. And McHale was good and Parrish were good, but they knew who the leader was, and that was Larry Bird.
Yeah, I agree. Great conversations right there. And of course, you think of, the All-Star game, 140 in overtime. Larry Bird, he's the first, 3-point champion, and actually the first person to hit a 3-point shot in an All-Star game was Larry. What was it like, competing against a young Larry Bird at that time?
Well, here's the thing. When we played against Boston, as I said, they had 3 future Hall of Famers. I would check McHale, but sometimes I would have to switch off and check Larry Bird. I'd rather check McHale or Parrish myself because they weren't as mobile.
Yeah.
Larry ran around the court, hitting threes and stuff like that. He was a great player. Very serious player too. Once again, he put the work in. And the reason why he only lasted as the many of years, he just beat his body down, just working out. Where nowadays, I think they could have gave him 5 more good years with the techniques and the weight training and everything that they do now. Back then, no, they didn't do that.
I agree. And there was, there was no taking time off during the season and resting players where, now you've got that load management word you hear in today's NBA. But great stuff because you've had so many great teammates. I mean, again, Pat Riley, Gail Goodrich. You had Cedric Maxwell. You were with JoJo White. Uh, Oh, John, exactly. And we're going to get into those names and stuff because it's just amazing to me the talent that you were around and how you were such a great role player with all those quality teams.
Well, something, I think I was teammates with 12 Hall of Famers, future Hall of, and I think maybe more than anybody else because I moved around, but moved around to good teams or when they were good. Because look, how many Hall of Famers in the Lakers? You had Jerry West, I think Gail Goodrich. You had Connie Hawkins, Zelmo Beatty. Oh, who else? Oh, Adrian Dantley. Oh, let me see who else from the Lakers. I remember there are more for the Lakers, but then I went to Boston.
Yeah, Connie Hawkins and
I probably I think okay, then you go to Boston. I had Havlicek, JoJo White, Dave Bing. Those are the 3 Hall of Famers there. Then I went to I went to the Clippers.
Yeah, World B. Free.
Who?
Well, yeah, World B. Free was with you there with the Clippers, right?
Randy Smith. You had some really good players. Sidney Wicks.
Yep.
I mean, they were
Swen Nater.
Swen Nater. Yes. I could tell you stories about Swen Nater. Lord have mercy.
Oh, give us one quick story.
Well, Swen Nater would wear the same pants on a 2-week trip. I mean, he wouldn't change. And so Randy Smith and them got on him so bad, he tried to go out and wash them and use some dye to change the color. Well, it worked. And he had the worst looking pants we ever, and they just stayed on top of him. But nicest guy, great rebounder. The last game of the season with the Clippers, Swen Nater and I were tied for the leading rebounders on the team. Okay. Well, they switched stats for some at the end of the game. I had almost a really good game, and he had not a good game. But for some reason, they switched the stats, and he had a good game, and it looked like he had a good game, and I had a bad game. And I looked at that stats. I said, Swen, they switched these stats. Oh no, I said you did not have a good game like that. That was, but you could yell at him, laugh. Very funny guy. And we had fun on that team, even though they put that team together like hodgepodge or whatever you want to call it. We won. We had a 43, I think, and 39 record from just a group of guys thrown together. I mean, and we were only 1 or 2 games out of making the playoffs. If we had beat here, we would have gone to the playoffs.
Wow, great stuff. Great stuff there, Kermit. And you know, and the elephant in the room, your name will always be forever linked to Rudy T. And I'm sure you've been asked a million times. And so I'm not going to ask that question about, the altercation. But I'll ask this. How did your life change after that horrible incident?
Oh, it changed. Well, because you know what? It wakes you up. I see. Before I tell you that, people don't realize the NBA was a very aggressive game back then.
Ooh.
If you got in a fight, it was a $50 fine. That's it, $50 fine. So the year before, we were playing Buffalo, and I got in an altercation with John Shoemate. Well, 3 of his teammates jumped me when I was in an altercation with him. Don Adams, Fred Foster, and Emmett Bryant. They jumped me. So all of a sudden I have all these guys beating up on me, and none of my Laker teammates helped me. So they're running at me. So then the next year, when I got in an altercation with Rudy Tomjanovich's teammate, Kevin Kunert, who's a 7-foot center, he elbows me in the face, and he turns around and punches me in the face. Okay. Now, that's not on film because back then they didn't have all the different angles. So I got in an altercation with him, and Kareem grabs him. So I turn around, and I see Rudy running at me full speed. So what am I going to think? I mean, now that I got to know him, he wasn't going to come and hit me, but you don't know that then. Yeah. This game, this is the heat of the game, and he got hurt, and I turned around and hit him, and he got hurt. So I feel bad about that. But then they suspended me for 2 months, or I don't know how long, and I had the biggest fine in the history of the game. And the Lakers let me go, and they sent me to Boston. And it was very difficult. People were booing me, throwing stuff at me in every city I went to. So it was difficult. But here's what I did. I had known Red Auerbach since I was 17 years old. And he was a president or general manager of the Celtics. And so he knew me, and he says, I'm going to grab Kermit. And so they got me, and they brought me to Boston. And I played well in Boston, about 12 points and 10 rebounds a game. I came off the bench. But the thing that which helped me the most, was when I got to Boston, there was a blizzard. And so I didn't look for a place to live. I stayed in a hotel, the Sheraton Prudential Center. I had 29 flights. So I said, these people hate me. Unfortunately, yes, they did. The public hated me. So I said, Kermit, they're going to get you if you're not ready. I weight vest. I ran the 29 flights 10 times every day. Took the elevator down, and I ran it every day. If we weren't playing a game that day, if I was in town, I ran those stairs with the weight vest. That was even 10 times harder than jumping rope.
Ooh.
But I had to face. People wanted me to fail. Everybody was against me. So you had to make yourself tough enough by doing things to yourself to make you believe that you can succeed. Now, 29 flights is a long way up with a 20-pound weight vest.
Oh.
It is monstrous, and do it 10 times every day. And sometimes I would fall on those steps, and I just would lay there for a minute. I said, I got to go because I got to check Bernard King, Elvin Hayes, Wes Unseld, just name them. Maurice Lucas, Lonnie Shelton, Truck Robinson, all players, they always put me on the best offensive player if it was a 3, 4, sometimes 5. So I had to be ready. And so I just punished myself. And in Boston, I just would, I didn't want to get up in the mornings or go to bed because I knew I had to run the stairs. Because back then, Boston, the players were getting older. So the practice wasn't that hard. And I needed to practice harder, because Havlicek was getting old. Dave Bing was getting old. Dave Cowens was getting pretty old there too. So you had 3 future Hall of Famers that were getting pretty old. And so our practices weren't that hard, but I had to practice harder. So I did that every day.
Wow.
And see, you have to understand my personality. You've got to make yourself believe you can succeed. You've got to put the work in. And I did. And so I played well. So, people hated me, threw stuff at me, booed me, everything, but I still played well.
Yeah, and that work ethic and what you put yourself through to be mentally and physically prepared for whatever came at you, you were ready to go.
Well, you hope that you're ready to go. Now, because you're playing against the very best players in the league. They will put me on the best player. I mean, Bernard King, Adrian Dan, just name them. These guys were really good. And the problem is, guys don't understand. If you are checking a star, they don't just make a quick look at them and see if they're open. They're going to have option 1, option 2. They want to get the ball to that player. You don't want to get in foul trouble. So first of all, you got to be in good enough shape to try to keep them from catching the ball. And then if they catch the ball, you got to don't let them be able to go any way they want to go. You've got to push it in place where maybe your teammates can help, because you can't stop great offensive players. Like Rick Barry told me one time, you can't stop me. I might have a bad day, but it's not because of you. So there you go. That's Rick Barry.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and we've got Kermit Washington, being our special guest today, who is just dropping so much wisdom, so much experience, so much expertise with all of our viewers today, and I'm grateful for that. Let's call. We're going to do our fast break segment. This is brought to you by deucebrand.com. Deuce Brand is popular. It's for the underdogs, number 2, trying to be number 1. Go check out deucebrand.com. Kermit, I'm going to ask you some questions and give me 1-word answers if you can. Best role player you ever played with?
That's hard to say now. Ever. Oh, that's really, really hard. I can't answer that because you said role player. Now, role was a defense, if it was a rebounding, if it was scoring. Oh, best role player. I don't know. You know what? I can't answer that.
Okay. So best offensive player you ever played with?
I would say World Be Free.
Okay. Best defensive player you ever played with?
Brian Taylor.
Ooh, best rebounder you ever had to defend?
Defend Moses Malone.
Ooh, faux. How about, who was the best trash talker in the league when you first came into the league?
You know what? It wasn't a lot of trash talk. I think Dick Barnett for the Knicks was a pretty big trash talker for a while, because he called me a caveman. He called me and for some reason, I guess waste or something, because he called me, as he said, who's this caveman coming in the game?
Well, so did Larry Bird in the 80s, did he become the best trash talker then?
Oh, quiet guy. To me, Ron is quiet. Very nice. Nice to me. I mean, during the All-Star game, he says, Kermit, nice to meet you. What are you doing after the game? Stuff like that. Because I didn't talk during the game. I was very quiet. I was, first of all, trying to keep my breath because I was probably tired chasing these guys. But you had people, let me see. Downtown Freddie Brown did some talking. He was a good talker, but nice guy, though. See, when I'm saying that, very, very nice guy that would just talk talk all game long, but he was very good.
I like favorite franchise that you played for.
I liked them all. I liked the Lakers. I liked Boston a lot because the Red Auerbach was there. I liked the Clippers because we didn't, it was just a fun group of guys. We didn't have a lot of pressure on us. See, when you're in LA, there's pressure. Boston, there's pressure. In Portland, there's a religious pressure. I mean, people don't understand. I don't know how they are now, but it was like a religion. The Blazers, never an empty seat. Never empty seat. They loved you, win or lose, they loved you to death. So you felt the pressure all the time.
Like it. Who was the person who became the most successful who you were around when you were a player? I mean, was it Jerry West as the executive? Was it Pat Riley as the coach and the executive? Was it Red Auerbach? Who was the most successful person in your mind that you learned the most from?
Well, that's a good question. But what I did, I listened to all the stars on the team, and I did exactly what they told me to do. If Jerry West told me to do this, that's what I did. If John Havlicek told me to do something, that's exactly what I did. If Dave Bing told me to do something, that's exactly what I did. So you have to understand, growing up, I had an older brother, and I always listened to him, whatever he told me to do. So I wasn't a person that was telling people what to do. I was a person that always listened to what people told me what to do. And that's maybe why my mentality was never a all-star mentality, because I've always been told, like, okay, on the playgrounds, the guys I played with, you heard of Austin Carr, right?
Of course.
Okay, well, all those guys were on the playgrounds in DC growing up. And so he would tell me, get down there, don't dribble the ball, get down there, I'll get you the ball down by the hoop. So that's what I did. When I was told to do something by these stars, I did what I was told. Because growing up, I guess I was a person, not the one telling people, but the one that was being told what to do. So I was a pretty good soldier. Let's use that word, soldier again.
I like that. And I think that's a great description because, again, you being in a role position, but you just outworked everybody. You out prepared everybody. Physically, you were ready for the physical demands of how the game was played back at that time.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to tell you a funny story. When I joined the Lakers, I had already been lifting weights for 3 years in college. And that's what got me up to like 235, 6'8", 235. But they did not want me. The Lakers back then did not want me to lift weights at all. If they said, if we find that you're lifting weights, we're going to fine you.
Wow.
Well, and I was going to Gold's Gym with Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those other guys to be strong, because you had to face a lot of very aggressive big guys back then. It wasn't a fast break team. It was like ground and pound. It was like big guys. So I went to Gold's Gym every day, and I had some of the very best guys in the world train me with weights. And the Lakers never found out. But I kept lifting. They told me not to lift. I said, that's okay. I've got to lift. I got to deal with these big monsters every day. So I had guys that were Mr. Olympia train me, Mr. Universe has trained me. And back then, I only had to pay them like $150 a week. Nowadays, you're probably paying them $500, $600, $700 a week or more, maybe even more. But they knew what they were doing to get me to be as good as I could be.
I love it. Kermit, this is just great insights. Let me ask you this, because we've got about 5-6 minutes. With all the reflection that you've had time to do, what would Kermit Washington today tell Kermit Washington who was 23, 24 years old?
Well, when he's 21, if I was I would tell him, get the very best trainer that you can find, and one that works with basketball players, not one that works with all athletes. Get one that can get you the exercises that will make you better as a basketball player. I would tell you what Bruce Lee told me one time. And he was working with Kareem in the movie. He says, if you want to be a better jumper, jump. You want to be a better swimmer, swim. If you want to be a better basketball player, play basketball. Don't do all the peripheral things until you get good at what you do. because when you play basketball, it's jumping, it's running, it's pushing, it's shoving, it's getting in the squat position. Don't be a marathon runner, because even though it might get your heart in shape, it doesn't get you prepared for basketball. So do what you do in the game and be good at that.
Oh, see, I love that because, like you say, basketball training is just that plyometric, isometric, foot speed, change of direction, the quick one jump, second jump. And if you're able to have that type of agility, it's going to enhance your portfolio and make you an asset to be able to do many things like the game does now.
You know something? I train, but here's the different things real quickly before you go. If somebody had told me to jump rope 10,000 times a night with a weight vest, I wouldn't have done it. If somebody had told me to run up down those steps 29 flights with a 20-pound weight vest 10 times a day, I wouldn't have done it. But because I envisioned what it would do for me, I would be in better shape. I would be able to jump higher. I would be able to be a better defensive player, because I thought of it and I could envision and visualize that I could be successful if I did these things. But see, a lot of coaches and parents, they visualize for their kids, and the kids don't see it. You have to have a person to believe that, like you on the radio, you have to visualize, I can do a good show. I can bring out the best in the guest. You don't want somebody else telling you what you can do when you don't believe it. You've got to believe that you can accomplish these things.
Kermit, that's such great insights, and those perspectives are just refreshing, but yet they're also very insightful coming from your experiences and coming from your background. You've got so many nuggets to share. Where do you see, what do you hope, we got like 2 minutes. What do you hope to accomplish moving forward with all your experience and knowledge?
Well, I'm going to start a podcast just like you. We're going to have it probably in 2 weeks. We'll start. We already have all the stuff going. The guests we're trying to get. It's like going on. Good thing about your show and everybody else's show, they can watch it when they want to watch it, and you can put it on Facebook to help them tease them, or Instagram or YouTube, just like you do, to make sure people can see it when they want. I like to do a lot of motivational speaking. Because if I came up where I came from, if I succeeded academically and athletically from where I came from, I can help other people, make them believe it's possible for them.
Oh, I love it. And Kermit, where can people find your content that you're about to put out? Do you have a website or an address where people can follow and support you?
You know what? The website they're still creating for the podcast. It's almost done. But if you want to hear about like Kermit with my travels in Africa or whatever, things like that, working in Africa, you can just Google me, YouTube, Kermit Washington, and you'll see some good things and you'll see some things that aren't so good. But so you can go there, and I just tell people, you got to believe you can succeed. You got to put the work out. You got to put the work out. And it's not easy. Nothing is easy. And on the other thing, everybody's not going to love you. People are jealous and envious. So just do your best, be happy with yourself, and don't look for other people to always pat you on your back, because they're not.
Oh, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kermit Washington. He's about to get his podcast started. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and expertise that you shared with all of our viewers today. We're enriched and we're empowered by that. God bless you, my friend. If I can ever do anything for you, just know that I'm a phone call away, brother, but keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, and keep, shining that light for others.
Take care. Thanks for having me. Take care of yourself.
You bet. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, that was Kermit Washington, the 5th overall pick in 1973. Great stories. The people that he's learned from, the people that he's been around. Yes, he's had ups and downs. Yes, he's had trials and tribulations, but he continues to inspire and uplift others. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Stay blessed, stay healthy, be kind, continue to encourage others. We'll see you soon.